Hello and welcome to Lore of the Cards, the series that looks to find the lore hidden in your Hearthstone deck. Many of our stories of late have been sending us down a familiar trail. As we drive along, we look to our left down Old God Boulevard, and not much further down the road we look to our right, and there's the familiar sight of Titan Close. Well, not today. Today, we're heading off-road into the forest of strained and tenuous metaphors. Oh yes. Today we'll be looking at one of Anduin's most faithful servants, a Hearthstone pedestrian from all the way back at the game's beginning, Northshire Cleric. The art of the card was produced by Terese Nielsen, a USA-born artist hailing from the state of Nebraska. An artist with an impressive body of work ranging from Magic cards to Star Wars to Warcraft to Vampirella. In Hearthstone, not much of Nielsen's art is used. More of her art was used for the now cancelled WoW trading card game. The card's Scent of Nature was used for Nourish, and the image used for the Woodsy Leaf Song card was used for Ancient Teachings, one of the Ancient of Law's options. The art for Northshire Cleric was also originally used in the World of Warcraft trading card game. It depicted the character Marnie Moonlight, a human priest specifically created for the trading card game that could heal 5 damage from target allies or heroes. She is dressed head to toe in the Incarnate armor set, known also as the Priest Tier 4 set in WoW. This means in order to obtain this sought after armor, Marnie would have braved the early raids of the Burning Crusade expansion. Magtheridon's Lair, the prison of the mighty Pit Lord Magtheridon, who once ruled Outland, now held by Illidan, his demonic blood feeding the power of Illidan's Fell Orcs. Karazhan, the now abandoned home of the Guardian Medivh, infested by ghosts, demons and undead, filled with the secret research of the most powerful mage to ever walk the lands of Azeroth. And the lair of the mighty Gron Dragonslayer, Gruul, a towering behemoth commanding an army of ogre slaves to do his bidding. The Northshire clerics practiced their faith in the Northshire Valley in Aegwynn Forest. When the lands of Azeroth knew peace, a time that must seem far away to many now, the cleric's duty was to spread the word of their faith to the people of the Kingdom of Stormwind, the word of the Holy Light, a force that existed even before the universe and aided in its creation. The light now permeates the entire universe, and those blessed by its touch are filled with feelings of hope, courage and comfort that swell from the heart. Those that serve the light find themselves further blessed, bathed in its radiant glow. The light at first warms the faithful and then sears. It feels as if the person is being cleansed, emptied by the light and then filled with its power. At first, the power is intense but fades to a tolerable level. Human practitioners of the light follow the tenets of the Church of the Holy Light. In times of peace, the Church dedicated themselves to healing and restoration. The clerics of Northshire Abbey were no different, and the citizens of Stormwind held great admiration for them and the aid they provided. The cleric's spiritual leadership helped keep them focused upon their mission of everlasting peace across Azeroth. Many were in awe of their miraculous abilities, their capability to channel the spirit of humanity to heal the injured and sick, and their uncanny ability to shape the perceptions of others toward their fellows. They, like many other followers of the light, strive to be divine, not to seek godhood, but to strive for goodness in all their actions. Those that did not would find that the light would abandon them. The Church preached 3 teachings to its servants, known as the 3 virtues: respect, tenacity, and compassion. Through following these virtues, one can help to make the world a place everyone can appreciate, built on a foundation of honour and justice. For junior acolytes learning the ways of the light, respect was the first virtue. When staring into the eyes of an enemy, they must be able to rise above the hatred that separates them. Even within those we hate, there are qualities to respect, prowess that can be acknowledged. While hatred may burn between opponents, those of the light must conduct themselves with honour and treat their adversary as they wish to be treated, showing respect. By doing this, the follower of the light acknowledges and utilises a connection between themselves and their opponent, and through this they are brought closer to their connection with the light. Tenacity is the second virtue. Followers of the light must be able to endure troubling times and bear painful experiences. Even in hateful or painful situations, followers of the light must be able to always stand true to their faith and endure any hardship. Finally, compassion. In times of conflict, it can sometimes seem like there is no common ground with one's enemy, but followers of the light must look beyond this and understand the similarities they share with those that stand against them. If they understand those they face, they can feel compassion for the pains felt through loss and suffering, even if those they empathise with fight a war under another banner. If followers of the light can feel compassion with friend and foe alike, they reaffirm their connection to the world. When preaching to the people of Stormwind, it is very likely these three virtues would have been the foundation of the clerics of Northshire's sermons. Even in times of peace, there was great strife, and the clerics of Northshire were often the first people others would seek out in times of need. Approximately 65 years ago, the last guardian Medivh turned 14. Coming of age, the great powers that had been gifted to him by his mother Aegwynn to protect the world of Azeroth from demonic threats awakened. Unprepared, the youth was sent reeling and the unstable energies within him released, killing his father, Nielsen, and sending the boy into a coma. The boy was brought to the clerics of Northshire, who tended to Medivh's near unmoving body for years, frequently visited by the spellcaster's childhood friends, Anduin Lothar and Prince Lane Rin. Upon waking, Medivh seemed unaffected, something the clerics found odd, but Medivh assured them he was fine. Of course, holy men and women are not just beacons of hope in times of peace, but in war as well. Around 20 years ago, the clerics of Northshire would need to instill hope among the people of Stormwind against a foe unlike any other: the Orcish Horde. These green barbaric brutes came from another world, storming into Azeroth through a portal created by Medivh, after a malevolent presence within his soul drove him to join the worlds. It was not just orcs that charged at Stormwind, but creatures that even made the muscle-bound greenskins look small in comparison: ogres. The conflict that followed became known as the First War, a series of violent and bloody battles fought between the Kingdom of Stormwind and the Orcish Horde. The clerics were not accustomed to fighting, but they found ways to defend themselves against the orcs. They were able to focus the power of the holy light into lances, which they would launch to smite their enemies. While it was not the clerics' way to partake in physical violence, they believed each force must be met with an equal force to preserve the balance between good and evil. The clerics drew upon the pure essence of their heart, mind and soul to fire the lances that were particularly effective against the evil orcs. While capable casters in offensive maneuvers, their main focus always remained on healing and protecting their kin. As foot soldiers and infantry fought the Horde, clerics would channel the holy light to heal their allies. The clerics' abilities were not just focused on protecting their allies during combat, but also aided in protecting them outside the heart of battle. They were able to warp the perceptions of their adversaries, allowing their friends to pass by unnoticed. This invisibility technique was first developed to aid followers of the light in confession, as not being able to see others helped the follower express the secrets that weighed heavily on their soul. The cleric's far-seeing technique allowed them to see lands far beyond the sight of the naked eye. This allowed them to help the commanders of the Stormwind army with reconnaissance, forewarning them of whatever the orcs had devised, delivering key scouting information. During the First War, the clerics of Northshire requested the Tome of Divinity be found, a book of great value to them that had been stolen away by a band of ogres led by Turok. Anduin Lothar, King Lane's lieutenant-at-arms, volunteered for the mission, which saw him lead a small expedition into the Dead Mines. Before the First War, these cavernous mines had supplied Stormwind with a third of its treasure reserves, but they now lay abandoned. Lothar's mission was ill-fated, set upon by Turok and his lackeys. They were imprisoned, and what was left of the party languished for 20 months. Lothar and his men would be freed after the Abbot of Northshire received a vision of Anduin and his men. Quickly informing Lane of the vision, he sent men to rescue Lothar. They succeeded, and Lothar was able to deliver the Tome of Divinity back to Northshire. Some of the clerics were warrior priests, but many were just healers, and their numbers declined greatly during the First War. Eventually, there were just too few of them to help turn the tide against the orcs, and after 5 years of fighting with all they had, the kingdom of Stormwind was conquered by the Horde. Northshire fell before Stormwind City. During the war, parts of the Abbey were used to hold prisoners. Among their number, the half-orc assassin, Garona Half-Orcan, the personal assassin in the employ of one of the most important members of the Horde, Gul'dan. The orcs attacked and destroyed Northshire to free Garona. Such was her importance. What was left of the clerics fled with the rest of the kingdom once Stormwind had been raised, led by Anduin Lothar to seek out allies in the fight against the orcs. The grounds of Northshire would become the home of the Twilight's Hammer clan, led by Gul'dan's second, the Ogre Magi, Cho'Gall. Eventually, the orcs would launch a second invasion, seeking to claim the entirety of the Eastern Kingdoms as their own. Only this time, they would fail, defeated by an alliance of the human kingdoms, dwarves, elves, and gnomes. The clerics of Northshire also played their part, painfully aware that their lack of martial prowess had cost them dear during the First War. Alonzo Sfoll, leader of the Church of the Holy Light, and his apprentice Uther Lightbringer, founded the Silver Hand. These were the first paladins of the Alliance, experienced knights taught in the techniques of the Holy Light. Not only able to square up against an orc in single combat, but also able to heal the wounds of their allies. They played a key role in the Horde's defeat. After the war, Archbishop Fowl raised vast funds to help rebuild the city of Stormwind. He also saw to it that the Abbey of Northshire was rebuilt and founded a new order of clerics, priests and paladins called the Brotherhood of Northshire that still practice their worship of the Holy Light in the Abbey to this day. It's likely the Brotherhood aided in the Third War when the undead scourge swept through the Eastern Kingdoms, but they took part in no events of note. What did likely happen during this time was their benefactor Alonzo Sfoll fell to the scourge. Since the release of World of Warcraft, Northshire Abbey has become famous as the place that all human player heroes begin their adventure. The region of Northshire was not without its worries during this time. Kobold infestations, forcing workers out of the Echo-rich mines, needed dealing with. Disease among the wolf population flourished and their numbers needed to be kept in check. They had come to Elwyn Forest after a foreboding darkness fell upon the region of Duskwood. The Defias Brotherhood also posed a constant threat. The Defias had helped rebuild Stormwind, but felt cheated by the insultingly low payment for their services, so had turned to a life of crime. Northshire had a vineyard, which the Defias forced the local workers from. Led by Garrick Padfoot, they used this area as a staging ground for raiding local farms and for stealing from merchants. Heroes made sure to put a stop to this criminal activity. When the Cataclysm shook Azeroth, the landscape of Northshire Abbey changed. A break occurred in the mountains surrounding Northshire, and through it surged Blackrock orcs, renegades no longer connected to the main body of the Horde. New recruits from Stormwind were sent to Northshire to kill the orcs' warg pets and eliminate any spies that were gathering information. The orcs were in league with goblin assassins that launched a sneak attack on the Abbey. Recruits needed to slay the goblins and revive any soldiers that were injured from their assault. Preparing for their final assault upon the Abbey, the orcs began to burn down trees surrounding the Abbey, as well as the vineyard. The recruits dealt with the orcs, slaying their leader, Kurtok the Slayer, and even helped in fighting the fires in the vineyard in an attempt to preserve it, despite it being almost reduced entirely to ash. Before we finish up, it's interesting to note that when describing the clerics in the Warcraft 1 instruction manual, Blizzard frequently used familiar imagery associated with Christianity, such as God, angels, heaven, and hell. This Christian belief was perpetuated further in Warcraft 2, When clicking on the church building, a structure required to train paladins, a chorus would sing the line Deo gratias,
Deo gratias.
Latin for thanks be to God. And that's not to mention the cross that sits atop the building's steeple. In Warcraft 3, the religion of the Holy Light was what humans ascribed to, and any mention of God or other Christian imagery was discreetly removed from the game. There are still ties to the Christian faith, for example the ranks in the Church of the Holy Light, Abbot, Archbishop, etc. This served to deepen the lore of the Warcraft universe while also maintaining a sense of familiarity to our world. So there you have it, the lore behind the Northshire Cleric. As always, I hope you enjoyed, and if you did, blessing our channel with the like would be greatly appreciated. You can do that with a like, subscribing, or sharing this blessed video with your friends. Or you can dislike, you unholy bastard. If you enjoyed the art, I've done my best to credit the artists in the description below. If you want to keep up to date with what Six Gamers is up to, then follow us on Twitter and Facebook. Until next time, happy Hearthstoning.